Alright, how's it going my friends? This is going to be my SSR tier list. Keep in mind these are based on my personal experience with the game all the way back since summer 2019. And I'll look at these characters from both the PvP and PvE perspective. Timestamps below to help you find what you're looking for. But without further ado, let's get started. Alright, starting off with tanks because there are only two in the game. First up we got Strong, arguably one of the best tanks in the game, not just within the SSR category. His perk, which regenerates some of his HP when he takes damage, it's really helpful to help him stay in the fight longer. He takes less rats because he's a super mutant, meaning he's good for PvE use as well. But what makes Strong so strong, no pun intended, is that he can disrupt the enemy. All of the enemy will focus their attack on Strong. Strong will divert and absorb a lot of damage, which then your team will have free reign to charge up their AP and deal more damage to them. And if you pair that up with the Overseer's Initiative, which gives you full AP at the start of a battle, you can do so right from the get-go. The downside is that while he's channeling his ability or while he's drinking his milk, his ability can be interrupted by crowd control such as Kate's stun. And because of that, I'm gonna put him on the A tier. Alright, next up we got the Antagonizer from Fallout 3. Her ability makes her super tanky while also reflect damage at the same time. This works best under the situation where a lot of the damage is focused on your tank, but she doesn't have any ability which can draw fire on her. But for PvE she's actually okay, and since she's a human she absorbs full radiation damage, which is why I'm putting her on the C tier. Alright, next up we got the healers. So first we got Father. So some of his perks are actually pretty nice, such as the one that heals you 4 times every 22 seconds, and the bonus defense is always welcome. His ability heals twice and also grants immunity to damage for 1 second, which is great for PvP and PvE. In some cases the immunity may actually save your unit, but unfortunately in PvP you cannot choose when to activate your abilities, so you're gonna have to get lucky. But he actually heals the most within a single cast. Downside will be rats and also the long cooldown for his ability. Still a fairly solid healer, arguably one of the best in the game. For that I'll put him on the A tier. Alright, next up we got Scribe Neriah. All of her perks are actually pretty useful. One gives her a shield in the beginning of the battle, which means more survivability and more time to charge up her AP. The selling point for Neriah really is her ability. It removes all rats for your teammates, including herself, and grants them a shield based on her max HP. And when this shield is dispersed, your unit gets some of the HP back, equal to 50% of the damage taken by the shield. So for any PvE players, she's pretty much a must-have on your team. Obviously she's viable in PvP as well, but unfortunately I do have to put her on the B tier because she removes radiation, which is fantastic, but she just doesn't heal it enough. Alright, and finally we got Carrington. One really great perk which heals the unit with the lowest HP and gives them a damage boost. His ability heals all units 5 times, which out of the 3 healers, it actually heals the most. Short cooldown as well, but healing 5 times in a row is good when the enemy doesn't have any burst damage. So for instance, if the enemy has Paladin Danse or McCready or something like that can execute, he might not be able to heal them fast enough to save them. And radiation is going to be a problem just like Father. I still think he's a fairly solid healer overall, which is why I'm going to put him right next to Father. Alright, next up we got the support. So first up we got Valentine. So he's a synth, obviously. Great for PvE because they take 50% less rats. He also has a good perk which freezes enemies for 2 seconds. Just like his perk, his ability also freezes the enemies, letting you charge your AP and damage them while they actually lose AP, which is a really unique effect. He's valuable in most team comps, good for guild boss. Downside is the long cooldown, which is why I'm going to be putting Nick on the A list, or A tier, sorry. Alright, next up we got Sarah Lyons. In PvE, you can actually pair up her ability with other AoE abilities such as Hancock's or Desdemona's, which can make dungeon clearing pretty much a piece of cake. Unfortunately in PvP you cannot choose when to activate your ability, which means it's not as effective as it could have been. Plus side is the short cooldown for her ability. Still, I think she is a pretty nice choice if you don't have Nick and you want a support on your team, which is why she's going to the B tier. Alright, and finally we got Kellogg. One really strong defense perk from Kellogg, but the rest are just okay. His ability is okay too, but in PvP, if it's not used to negate the opponent's ability damage, it's just not living up to its potential. But he does work in PVE because you can actually choose when to lower your opponent's damage. Downside is the long cooldown, but in most cases I'll probably still suggest going for Nick or Sarah, which is why I'm putting Kellogg to the C tier. Alright, now on to the attackers. So first up we got Elder Maxson. He has a very good combination of perks that works well with each other, especially motivation, which gives percentage based bonus damage. Also a perk that gives increased hit rate that helps dealing with characters like Kate or Dogmeat, who has very high dodge rate. His ability is really solid for PvP and PvE due to the percentage HP base burn damage. The downside is the long cooldown though. And with that, I'm going to put him on the A tier. Alright, next up we got Paladin Danse, one of if not the best attacker in the game. Great sets of perks. Ability can do high amount of damage to the lowest HP unit. If he executes an enemy with his ability, he gains 50% more max AP, which makes him really good for cleaning up, especially when you stack up his killing bonus perk. Downside is the long cooldown, and for PvE he's actually a synth, which means he takes 50% less rats. And one of his perks is actually called Radiation Power, which basically means that when he takes more rats, he gets increased damage. So I personally believe he's probably like the best attacker in the game, which is why I'm putting him on the S tier. Alright, up next we got Silver Shroud. He's what I like to call an assassin because his ability pretty much lets him dive towards the enemy's attacker, dishing out damage while pretty much disabling their attackers, because he also silences them and reduces their hit rate. Not to mention he has a Bloodthirsty perk which gives him more survivability, and on top of that, when he's below 80 HP he also gains increased damage, and this makes him a very solid PvP character. Alright, next we got Dr. Zimmer, another strong attacker with the ability to target the unit with the lowest HP, damaging that target and also its surrounding units. On top of that, also reduce their damage and make them bleed during that time. Downside is the cooldown is fairly long, but still bleed effect is pretty strong, which is why I'm putting him on the S tier. So next is Desdemona. Good perks all around, but nothing too special. Her ability is a strong AoE and it also could be a strong single target ability. She's a pretty solid character for both PvP and PvE, but for PvP I would rather run something that has more effect that comes with the ability. Still though, her cooldown is fairly short and that makes her pretty good. I am going to put her on the B tier just because I still think Maxson and Silver Shroud is just better characters. So up next is Hancock, which also has a increased hit rate perk. Hancock is a ghoul, which means he is completely immune to rats, making him extremely viable for PvE. Strong AoE ability with long cooldown, unfortunately. Alright, up next we got Preston Garvey. Garvey is also one of, if not the best attacker in the game, along with Paladin Danse. So his ability attacks random target 9 times, so the strongest part is that also reduces their energy and physical resistance. His perks are exceptional as well, more crit damage, Bloodthirsty perk which gives him more healing, and killing bonus which increases his damage when he downs a character. Sadly he has a long cooldown, but I feel like his perks and ability outweighs that, and which is why I'm gonna put him on the S tier. And finally we got Mother Isolde, I hope I said her name right. So the Radiation Power perk gives her more damage the higher her rat is. Her really cool ability is that she removes all of her rats from herself and deal an explosion to the closest enemy. The more rats it removes, the higher the damage. But the strongest effect for her ability is the healing reduction, and given that she targets the closest enemy, usually it will be either a tank, healer, or support. This ability can greatly reduce their effectiveness. I'll say she works in PvE, but she is capable in certain PvP situations, which is why I have to put her on the D tier. Alright, and with that, our list is complete. If you have any questions, leave in the comment section below. I'll reply to all the comments. I cover all things Fallout Shelter online, so be sure to subscribe if you're interested. But other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Later.